Hi, how's it going? I'm Resident of Colin, and I'm here to read my story, Legend of the Horse Thief. So here we go. It is August 3rd, 1989, and we see a young man driving in his red Honda Civic. This man has been driving for a couple of hours. He comes upon a motel sign. It reads Blue Ribbon Hotel. So, in the dead of night, the man pulls into the parking lot of the Blue Ribbon Hotel. He parks his car and then he gets out of it. After that, he walks over to the hotel manager's office. The clear, there's a clear glass door. Once he gets to the door, he opens it to see a young woman sitting on a chair watching a Houston Rockets basketball game. Jackson Daniels. Excuse me. The woman turns. The woman turns to Jackson. Jackson Daniels. Hi, I'm Jackson Daniels. I need a room for the night. And can you tell me how far the Staples Ranch is from here? Cindy Hayes. The Staples Ranch is 30 miles outside of, of here, where you are, of Houston. You take Route 73 and keep going. You'll see the signs going to the ranch. Jackson Daniels. Thank you. Cindy Hayes. Hands Jackson keys to the hotel room, number 8. Cindy Hayes. Are you here to interview Alex Staples? Jackson Daniels. Well, I'm here to interview the Staples family about their horse ranch. And yes, Alex is the eldest, so I'll most likely be interviewing him, as well as the other family members. Cindy Hayes. Well, surely you've heard about the Staples murder and kidnapping that happened to Alex when he was just a boy, right? Jackson Daniels. Well, from what I've read, the police never found the bodies of Vince Cannon, Adam Flowers, Henry Winters, John Childs, Kelly Starr, Brett Sampson, and Lance Strong. Those were the men who apparently kidnapped Alex and murdered his father. Jackson Daniels continues, they never found Charles Staples' body from what the police gathered. The men shot Chester and his body went into the river. The men then grabbed Alex and held him hostage. They also took the horses that Chester and Alex were taking across the plains of Texas, but by the time the police tracked them to where they went, the only thing the police found was Alex and the horses. Jackson Daniels continues, what do you think? Well, don't you think it's time that the public learn the truth of what really happened? Cindy Hayes. Mr. Daniels, if you can get Alex Staples to tell you what happened, that would be a miracle. Jackson Daniels picks up the keys to his room off the counter. Jackson Daniels. Well, miracles do tend to happen. Cindy Hayes. Good luck with that. Jackson walks out of the hotel manager's office, and goes to his room. Room 8, he unlocks the door and goes inside. He sits his suitcase on the floor and then opens it. Inside are his clothes, camera, tape recorder, notepad, and pencil case full of pencils. Jackson reaches for his tape recorder and pushes record and play and begins talking. Jackson Daniels. This is Jackson Daniels reporting for Horseshoe Magazine. I spoke to Cindy Hayes, who is the owner of the motel where I'm staying. She told me a little about Alex Staples. The legend of Alex's story has grown and has not faded since the magazine first tried to cover this incident when it took place in 1908. I'll be going to the Staples Ranch in the morning to speak with Alex's son, Dan Staples. Jackson stops the tape recorder and places it back into his suitcase. August 4th, morning in Houston, Texas. As the sun is coming up, Jackson takes his tape recorder, a couple of tapes, along with his camera and pencil and notepad. He walks out of the hotel room and walks to his car. He opens his car door and puts his things into the passenger seat. He then sits down in the driver's seat, closes the door, buckles his seatbelt, and then puts the car keys into the ignition and starts his red Honda Civic. He puts the car in reverse, backs up, and turns the wheel to the left. He puts the car in drive-in, gets on the Texas highway, heading toward Route 73. Jackson drives for at least 30 miles until he sees a sign, Staples Horse Ranch. Jackson sees a dirt road. He turns right down the dirt road. After a while, Jackson has finally reached the Staples Ranch. He pulls his car to the side of the dirt road and puts the car in park. Jackson then shuts off the engine and takes off his seatbelt and grabs his tape recorder, camera, and his notepad and pencil. He gets out of his car and sees a man in full cowboy attire standing in front of him. Jackson Daniels. Are you Dan Staples? Dan Staples. Yes, I'm him. Jackson Daniels. Hi, Mr. Staples. I'm Jackson Daniels. I wanted to speak to you about your horses and your family's ranch. Dan Staples smiles at Jackson. Jackson Daniels. Is something I said funny? Dan Staples. Mr. Daniels, we're simple folk out here. People the countryside of Texas, but that doesn't mean we're stupid. You're not here for our horses. You're here because you want to speak to my father about what happened to him. What are your questions about the horses? I'm sorry. What are you people going to learn? He doesn't want to talk about it. Jackson Daniels, as he ever talked about it with you or any of your family members? Dan Staples, unless you're here to ask questions about the horses or learn how to ride a horse, then leave. Get out of here and never come back. Just then another man rides up on a horse right beside Dan and Jackson. Max Staples, this man giving you trouble, Pa? Dan Staples, go back to your chores, Max. I'm handling this matter. Max Staples, we're peaceful folk, mister. We don't want any trouble. If my father has told you to leave, then do so. The young man rides off on his horse. Jackson Daniels, look, I just want 5 minutes of your father's time. I don't see the harm in. Just then Dan cuts him off. Dan Staples, no, you reporters and writers never see the harm. He's never spoken to me about it, and he's made it known enough times. He doesn't want to talk about it. So just leave him and my family alone. Just then a young woman rides up on a brown horse. Veronica Staples. Hey, Dad, what's going on? Dan Staples. Never mind what's going on. Just get back to what you were doing. Veronica Staples. Well, actually, I wasn't doing much of anything because there's no one coming for riding lessons today. Jackson Daniels. How much for a riding lesson? Veronica Staples. $5 a day. Jackson Daniels hands Dan Staples a $20 bill. Jackson Daniels. So you're my teacher, Veronica Staples. That's right. So Veronica saddles a horse for Jackson and brings the horses into where Veronica teaches people to ride horses. As she does this, Jackson takes his tape recorder and things back to his car. He gets back to Veronica. He now stands next to the horse. Veronica Staples. Okay, Mr. Daniels, put your left foot in the cashel. So Jackson Daniels does just that. He puts his left foot in the cashel. Veronica Staples Take your right hand and grab the top of the saddle. Jackson takes his right hand and grabs the top of the saddle. Veronica Staples. Now, take your left hand and grab the top of the saddle. Jackson Daniels. Why can't I just pull myself up with one hand? Veronica Staples. Well, when you're experienced enough, you can, but this is your first time, so we'll take it one step at a time. But Jackson ignores Veronica and tries to mount the horse with one hand, grabbing the top of the saddle. With Dan and Max Staples looking on, Jackson tries to pull himself up, only to lose his balance and fall onto the dirt onto his back first. Dan and Max begin laughing at Jackson. Veronica looks over at her father and brother, giving them a stern look. Veronica Staples. Don't you two have work to do? And as for you, Mr. Daniels, how do you expect to listen to my grandfather when you can't even listen to my instructions on how to ride a horse? Jackson gets up off the ground. Jackson Daniels. I'm sorry, I was trying to. Veronica cuts him off. Veronica Staples. This isn't like a car. That horse has feelings. It's a smart and beautiful animal. Not like that stupid car you drive. If you're not going to listen or take this serious, I'll refund you your money and you can get your ass off my family's ranch. Jackson Daniels. No, I'll listen. Veronica Staples. You ever pull a stunt like that again, I'll personally throw your ass off my family's property. Jackson Daniels. I'm really sorry. Veronica Staples. Alright, now do it again. So Jackson does try and mount the horse again. Only this time he does it exactly how Veronica told him before. Jackson pulls himself up and is sitting on the horse. Jackson looks at Veronica. Jackson Daniels. Okay, now what? Veronica Staples. We walk our horses from one end of the ranch to the other. Jackson Daniels. Okay. So as Veronica and Jackson begin their trip to the other side of the ranch, Veronica begins asking Jackson some questions. Veronica Staples. So how long have you been a magazine writer? Jackson Daniels. 10 years. Veronica Staples. Why do you do it? Why did you want to be a magazine writer, I mean? Jackson Daniels. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to hear people's stories. I always used to listen to my grandfather tell stories about his life, and I loved them so much. When I got older, I wanted to hear other people's stories about their lives, the things they've experienced. I know, things like that. Veronica Staples. My grandpa has never spoken to anyone about what happened, Mr. Daniels. I don't think he ever will. Jackson Daniels. Oh, you can call me Jackson if you like. Veronica Staples. Well then, Jackson, I personally think you're wasting your time. Jackson Daniels. Well, I know he has turned every other reporter or writer from a big newspaper down, and several writers from this magazine as well. Why won't he tell his story? Veronica doesn't say anything for a long while. The two ride their horse clear to the other side of the Staples ranch. They bring their horses to a stop. Veronica Staples. He's scared. Jackson Daniels. Your grandfather? Why? Veronica Staples. I'm not sure why. I just have a theory, not much else. Jackson Daniels. If he's scared, I won't listen. I assure you and him, I will indeed listen. Veronica Staples. I don't think he's scared of what he saw, or even of that you won't listen. Jackson Daniels. That's understandable. He witnessed his own father murdered. Veronica Staples. I see you got a hold of the police report and their findings. Jackson Daniels. I wouldn't be much of a reporter if I didn't. Veronica Staples. Follow me. Jackson Daniels. Okay. So Veronica and Jackson begin their journey back toward the Staples ranch. But instead of taking the horses to the stables, they take their horses up to the house. Veronica dismounts her horse, as does Jackson. She looks at Jackson. Veronica Staples. Wait here. Veronica goes inside to her family's home. She walks through the kitchen into the living room to see her grandfather, Alex Staples, sitting there. Meanwhile, back outside, Jackson stands around looking over the Staples family ranch. Jackson Daniels. Amazing. It's like something out of time almost. Just then, Veronica and Alex come out of the house. Alex Staples. Is that the young reporter you were telling me about? Veronica Staples. Yes, Grandpa. Alex Staples. Well, young man, if you've come here to interview me, get your things. I think my granddaughter is right. It's well past time to tell what has happened. Jackson runs to his car and grabs his tape recorder. He runs back, nearly falling on his way. Alex smiles as Jackson makes his way up to the porch. The two men sit across from each other. Alex extends his hand. Alex Staples. I'm Alex Staples. Jackson Daniels extends his hand back. Jackson Daniels. I'm Jackson Daniels, sir. Mr. Staples, may I record our conversation? Alex Staples, yes. And please call me Alex. So Jackson pushes record and begins speaking. Jackson Daniels. This is that Jackson Daniels here. For Horseshoe Magazine. Would you mind stating your name for the record? Alex Staples. My name is Alex Staples. Jackson Daniels. Alex, when were you born? Alex Staples. I was born June 4th, 1900. Jackson Daniels. If you would, Alex, would you please tell me the full story of what happened to you and your father? Alex Staples. It was July 18th, 1909. My father, Chester Staples, and I were about to embark on a journey across the plains of Texas. We were taking a herd of horses to Jacob's Farm, which is about a 3-day ride from here. We set out just as the sun was coming up. My father was just in front of me. We headed south and continued that way for a couple of hours. It seemed like forever. Once we got to Sabine River, it was very late. Father wanted to water the horses and then bed down. That's where the trouble came. Chester Staples. All right, Alex, let's dismount. Alex Staples. Yes, Papa. Alex Staples. As he started to lead the horses to water, he heard a voice. Henry Winters. Well, look at what we have here, boys. Alex Staples speaks to Jackson Daniels. Alex Staples. There were 7 men. They were all armed. They were carrying what looked like bags of money. Henry Winters. Lance and Brett, get a hold of those horses. We're going to need them. John grabs the boy. So the men do as Henry instructs them. Chester Staples, please, you can have the horses, but don't take my son. Henry smiles at Chester. He then raises his shotgun at Chester, aiming right at his chest. Henry pulls the trigger, causing Chester's now lifeless body to fall into the Sabine River, his body floating downstream. Alex Staples. Papa! Veronica Staples. Grandpa, my God. Veronica now touching his hand. Alex Staples touches his granddaughter's hand back. Jackson Daniels. Alex, would you like to stop? Alex Staples. No, this needs to be told. People need to know what really happened. Alex Staples. Sometime later, the men were setting up camp. The horses were restless due to the fact they didn't get any water. John Childs. Shut them horses up. Alex Staples. They need water. That's what's wrong. Henry looks over at Kelly Stars. Henry Winters. Kelly, take that bucket and go get some water from the river. Kelly Stars grabs the bucket and walks 2 miles back to the river. Once there, he bends down and begins filling up the bucket with water. As he does, he notices something in the reflection of the water. A black stallion with a man dressed in black sitting on it. Kelly feels a lasso go around him. He tries to yell, but before he can, he's pulled into the river and dragged downstream. Meanwhile, John Child has built a fire for has become nighttime. John Child, what the hell's taking Kelly so long? Henry Winters. Brett, Adam, you two go check on Kelly. So Adam Flowers and Brett Sampson walk 2 miles. Both men are carrying flashlights and their pistols. They get to the Sabine River to see the bucket Kelly was carrying on the ground. Brett and Adam look around. They begin calling for Kelly. Adam Flowers, Kelly! Brett Sampson, Kelly! No response from Kelly. Just then, a black stallion races across the river, trampling all over Adam Flowers as Brett Sampson goes to raise his gun. The man dressed in black throws a tomahawk at Brett. The tomahawk sinks into Brett's skull, killing him instantly. The black stallion has now trampled Adam to death. Back at the campfire, Henry gets a strange feeling and picks up his shotgun, as does Vince, Cannon, John Childs, and Lance Strong. Just then, the black stallion stands directly in front of the remaining 4 gang members. Henry Winters. All right, where's Adam, Brett, and Kelly? And what do you want? Horse Thief. They're dead. And what I want is you. Each and every one of you. You, Vince Cannon, for the rape and murder of Ann Savage. You, Lance Strong, for the murder of the Hanson family. And you, most of all, Henry Winters, for the murder of your own mother and father. Killing them in their sleep like a coward that you are. The men turn white as ghosts, as they have never revealed those crimes to anyone. The horse thief pulls a 6-shooter revolver from his holster and shoots each man in the head, killing them instantly. Alex sits there in complete shock of what has just happened. The man dressed in black brings Alex's horses over to him. Horse thief, believe this belongs to you, young man. Alex Staples sitting on his porch. Alex Staples. By morning they were all gone. I stood up to see police officers approaching me. All I could tell them was that the men had disappeared. Jackson stops his tape recorder. Jackson Daniels. It's an amazing story. Jackson Daniels leaves the Staples family ranch, trying to track down any similar stories that mirror Alex's. An American reporter who covers stories in Italy tells Alex of a story of soldiers stealing horses and being murdered. Jackson decides to print the story and then titles it one thing without really knowing why. Legend of the Horse Thief. Alright guys, I want to thank you. I know the story was not that long. The story is very short. Please let me know what you guys think. Thank you.